In this video I'm going to describe how to create panel pages using Yearbook Fusion. This is an unpopulated panel that we're seeing here. There's a header at the top. It might say someday the name of the teacher whose grade we're looking at, for example. These gray frames are where student and teacher pictures will go. These labels over here are associated with each one of the individuals in the panel. So the first step I need to take is to import a database worth of students, and I'll begin by clicking on the Yearbook button here. This asks me which PSPA file I'd like to load up. The PSPA stands for Professional School Photographers Association. They have a standard for how the students in a school should be represented on a CD. If you look at the installation that you got with Yearbook Fusion, you should find several examples. I'm using one of them here. This is the high school example. And I'll just draw your attention here in this import dialog to the different fields that are in the index file. These are the names of the photographs that we're importing, the grade and first and last name of the individuals they represent. We also have the teacher, and finally 3 optional fields which are going to make the presets work. They're quite important. The department, so for most of the students it's student, but when you get down to the adults you see administration, faculty, support. Title is optional. If you fill it in, then you'll know who's the principal and who's the VP, and if you fill in the salutation fields, you'll know the difference between a Miss and a Mrs., for example. In any case, if your own PSPA file isn't in this format already, there's a video describing how to take older PSPA files and bring them up to date with this information. In this video, though, I'm just going to do a quick overview of how to work with the panels, and I'll leave that to another video. So when I click the import button, what's happening is the images are being imported from the CD and copied onto my local hard drive, so that if the CD gets removed, there's no problem. The database is going to become a part of this project, and if I save the project and somebody else loads it, then they'll get not just the pages, but also the database of students that came with it. And the database is quite important. It can be seen here. If you go to the Organize tab, you'll see all of the different individuals, and if you click on somebody, you'll see their name and the teacher that they're with, and so on. There's another video to describe all that. I'm just going to keep it simple in this video, and you'll notice that the panel UI has 2 different modes, simple and advanced. We're going to keep it simple. I'm going to say I'd like to do students by teacher, please. Click on this. PhotoFusion thinks for a moment and produces, in this case, 11 pages worth of panels. If you'd like to see them all, I just bring my mouse down here over pages, and you can see all of the different pages that make the book up. So on this page we see where the Lavallee class ends and the Stalwick class begins. Here's the middle of the Stalwick class, and so on. So we'll just go back to the first page. There are different types of presets. These are complete presets at the top. So if I want to change to look at staff by department, basically that removes everything that we had and replaces it all with a staff page broken out by department. There are different styles, header and label text presets. Styles allow you to choose whether you want ovals or rectangular frames. We have preset colors and so on. I'll come back to that. The header text allows you to say whether you'd like to see the department that people work in, or the grade or the teacher name. Label text allows you to change whether you want to have only, let's say Agatha Bronfman VP Boys, that's her first and last name followed by the title. If I only wanted to have her first name and last name, then I would choose this preset and adjust the label size so that it's perfect. But I think I liked it the way it was, which was first name, last name, and then title, and then I'll increase the label size again to get it just so. So there's a bunch of different controls down here, but this is just a small subset of the things that you can do to a panel if you go into the advanced mode. Keeping it simple though, there's the number of columns and rows. If I press the mouse button on columns and drag, let's say to the left, as I continue to drag, you see that I'm reducing the number of columns. So there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. As I increase the number of columns, of course, they're going to get smaller. The reason that only the administration is changing is because I've set it that way, group administration. If I'd said apply it to everything in this set of groups, then all of them would be changing at the same size, like that. It's actually quite useful to only affect some things. For example, if the administration is supposed to be a little bit larger, then I'll make them alone larger. and I'll increase their header size, and you'll notice that the faculty headers, labels are not getting bigger. So you can control the scope of changes that you make. So I'm going to say all of them should have the same size labels. There, they're all growing at the same speed now. So that's what the scope control does. There's number of columns and number of rows. You can choose where you want the labels to be positioned. Right now they're all under. I could have said that I'd like to have the labels beside the panel, like this. You can choose to have the labels beside each image, like this. Within each choice here, you can adjust the border width. You can adjust the header size. You can adjust the label size. So in each case what I'm doing here is I'm just pressing the mouse button and then dragging to the right and to the left. If you'd like to change the colors of any one of these things, you can do it. If I click on, for example, the header and then choose to have it be quite saturated blue, that's how I do it. Alternatively, if I hold the control key down, I can click just to swap quickly between black and white. I'm going to go back to a different preset, which is Students by Teacher, so that you can see more easily what happens with the featured images. In this case, the first individual is the teacher, and then an administrative assistant, and then a bunch of students. The featured images control, I'll just drag it one notch to the right, allows me to accentuate the teacher over everybody else, just like that. And if I want to have both of them, the teacher and the assistant, get featured, then I would press and drag to the right again, and now both of them are being featured and the rest of the kids are all just the same size. And that, by the way, was applied to all the different groups. That's why Mr. Germain is big, and also his first student. So that's a good example of why you would want the scope control to say, look, I don't want it to be applied to everybody. I'm going to bring it down to one featured individual for everybody. So now it's correct. But then I'll find the students who have assistants, because obviously not all of them do, and say, okay, I only want the Derok class to have 2 featured teachers there, and I'll press the page down key. There's Mr. Germain, no assistant. There's Mr. Hebert, he does not have an assistant either. Mrs. Levelet doesn't either. Neither does Mr. Stallwick. But it looks like this teacher does, and so I'll need to bring up this teacher here. So I'll say feature him as well. And you notice, by the way, that it changed automatically. As I was going from page to page, the group was changing to keep up with me. So I really was changing the right group there. So there's only one control left. That is the auto knockout, which allows me to quickly have people get out of the way to hold pictures. If I turn auto knockout on and then drag a picture into the layout, the students that are covered up by that picture will get out of the way. This is called occlusion, and anybody who is occluded gets knocked out. So you can see that we're knocking out automatically. You can do this kind of thing manually as well. If you turn auto knockout off, then of course it'll reflow, and now I can manually knock people out just by clicking. So by clicking on a frame, it basically turns it pink. That doesn't show up in the final rendered output. It's just indicating that there's something that was knocked out. And the reason you would do this, let's just go get a picture of a school, let's say, is to throw a candid, let's say, into the middle of your book. So I'll go and grab a frame and drop it on. And that's a good example of how you would spice up a panel page. The only thing left to notice is the mode, and when you're satisfied with your overall panel, you can change it to be locked. And this means that you can't select it, or change the font, or do anything like that to it. On the other hand, if you'd chosen manual, then you can do some quite fancy effects, such as what I'm going to do is nudge all of these people and all of these people, but not the Polaroid. There we go. So now I've got a kind of wave effect going on, and I did that by going to manual mode and then just selecting and moving individuals around. If you were to change back to automatic mode, then it's going to tell you, are you sure? Because it's going to reflow everything. And if I say yes, you'll see that it automatically just reflows everything. So that's how to work with panels, light and easy. If you have a well-configured PSPA database, then really it's just a matter of choosing a preset and off you go. If you want to get more detail, then just click on Advanced, and that will be the topic of another video.